have VR, so that'd be cool too. Have VR, so that'd be cool too.
Oh right. What's that going on?
Have VR, so that'd be cool too. Being the host and the hosting and doing the filming at the same time is a little bit complicated.
I'm balling.
Hey,
I'm balling hard.
He can do that.
What,
He can do
Freeman?
that easily. Ghost
Yeah.
only. Well, he's the pro.
I know, right?
All right. Are we gonna have Endgame do it or Catapult? Where are you gonna do it?
Catapult?
Alrighty then. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. In 3, 2, 1, live.
Hey, welcome to Endgame with our host, Psych and Laozi, and our cameraman extraordinaire, Ghoster, and Endgame VR. Today's topic is on Ready Player One and how close VR is actually getting to the Oasis in the movie. So sit back and enjoy.
Thanks, Catapult.
Nicely
awesome.
done.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. And yeah, today we're having a really interesting discussion. Ghoster is also hosting with us tonight, and he's made some interesting modifications to the room and continued to add some video and some slides and things like that. And yeah, we're definitely going to want you guys to chime in as much as you want, but in terms of perceptions. And we're really going to be talking tonight about the Oasis and how close are we getting to the reality of Ready Player One. And Lau, I know this was a topic that you were interested in talking about. I guess before we play the trailer to spark people's memories, is there what led you to be interested in talking about this topic?
Oh, I mean, I think the same thing that interests everyone is just everybody who's, read about VR and wanted to experience it, saw Ready Player One and is like, I want that. And we all have, or a lot of people have VR. And so we all want to see it succeed and hopefully one day be, just continue to grow more awesome. So
yeah,
I think it's an interesting topic for everyone.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting discussion.
Laozi, I'm surprised you're not talking about Skyrim again.
Hey, VR is Skyrim. It's one and the same. It's all Skyrim. Skyrim's all the way down.
Ah. Well, do you want to play the trailer of Ready Player One just as a refresher for everyone? You guys are welcome to come a little closer if you want, but there is security on the stage. But yeah, you want to.
My name's Wade Watts. My dad picked that name because it sounded like a superhero's alter ego, like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner.
If you can't hear it,
but he died when I was
turn up your world sounds to 100%.
And I ended up here, sitting here in my tiny corner of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the Oasis. A whole virtual universe. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do. But they stay because of all the things they can be.
Can you feel this?
Yeah. It's the only place that feels like I mean anything. The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. I created a hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Who is this Parzival, and how the hell is he winning?
Find him.
This isn't just a game. I'm talking about actual life and death stuff.
The Oasis, the world's most important economic resource. It's nothing less than a war.
for control of the future.
Welcome to the rebellion, Wade.
Like many of you, I only came here to escape. But I found something much bigger than just myself. Are you willing to fight? Help us save the Oasis.
Nice.
And a little Back to the Future
My name's Wade.
teaser at the
Block.
end. Great.
Mm.
Little audio
And how-
cue.
How many of you guys have seen them? You can use the emoji on the thing. How many people here have seen Ready Player One? I just want to. I'm just curious. Everybody.
Pretty much everybody.
Okay. Sounds like most people have. Yes.
Beer. They added a beer emote. I haven't even seen that. That's great.
Yes. But yeah.
Okay,
So
let's go
this
close to the
is.
center.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you guys can come in. And so basically we decided to kind of split this discussion up into 3 areas, like talking about the hardware, kind of the social experience, and where we see things going in the future. And yeah, so you guys want to start with the hardware, I guess, thinking about how close are we to what we see in the movie? And how close really do we need to be is another question, because I think that it's interesting that in the beginning of the preview, they say people have nowhere left to go. And so I think there's like not only the hardware, but also like the real world that kind of collapses a little bit. And that's kind of leads them to need to be in VR. And I feel like our hardware could support that even now. But I'm curious, yeah, what you guys think about that.
Well, I would be curious if anyone, maybe doing the thumbs up thing again, does anybody try to Quest, Oculus Quest? Give one of
Yes.
those little thumbs up symbols if you have. So, all right. So we got one person at least. Up, 2, couple. Yeah. So I have one. I guess the first thing I would say is my first VR headset was the OG Vive. I mean, right now I'm using a Vive Pro, and I have, my super powerful PC and my Vive Pro in my room scale room in my house, where I'm fortunate enough to have a room that I can set aside for VR. All of those things put me in like a significant minority. I think even in VR like population, which is also very small. People who have all of those things, there's not that many of them in comparison to what you would want for wide scale adoption, and a lot of people don't want those things. So the first time I put on a Quest, I was at my office because I got it shipped to my office. I popped it on. I went into the conference room, painted a space down in like 5 seconds, and bam, in VR like that. And it's not like. It's maybe 95% as good as my Vive when it comes to tracking, and actually in some cases looks better because of the foveated rendering they've done. So it's just like, it's a massive leap just with Oculus Quest. It's a massive leap in tech, not because so much of the resolution, but because I literally take this device and pop it on my head and I'm in VR. There's no sensors, there's no dedicated room, there's no anything. So I think that's much closer to, like, for me, I would say wide scale adoption of VR, like everyone in Facebook Spaces, can only happen once the VR headset is that simple. I go to Best Buy, I buy a box, I pull this thing out, pop it on my head, photorealistic VR. Holy cow, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think the Quest is Gen 2 of VR, really. I mean, I think it's like, even though it's the same experience, basically, it's really this next level of access and things like that. Yeah, it goes through.
Well, and the thing is too, like previously, the Google Cardboard was what everyone assumed was VR, except for people who used, PC stuff. So to go from that
Yes.
to the Quest
Love for the Google Cardboard.
is, pretty crazy. And especially technology-wise. I mean, the phones from the Google Cardboard were what? Using the Snapdragon 845, I think. Now we're up to the Snapdragon 875. Which
Yeah.
is like twice as powerful.
Well, we were just talking
So-
about, we were trying to figure out, it's been 3 years, almost 3 years since we started doing Endgame.
Yeah.
Right? Not quite that long. But yeah, so I remember getting my Vive not long before that, and then the Quest came out like 6 months ago. So that's a dramatic increase in features just within like 3 years or less. Like the tech is coming along pretty fast.
Yeah, and a lot of people perceptions is important. And Freeman, did you have something to?
Oh no, I was still going to talk about other stuff.
Okay.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, let me add one thing and then we'll get to you is that I think that perceptions is important. Like when I'm giving a talk and I ask how many people have tried VR, like of academics or other people, like a lot of people raise their hand. But then if I ask how many people have tried VR with hand controllers, which is typically how I differentiate mobile VR from like Quest or PC VR, because people don't really know what that means, almost everybody hand goes down, or maybe now actually I would say it's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit less, like maybe half, like because a lot of people have tried like cardboard and that stuff, but they really haven't tried the sixed off headsets and stuff. So it's interesting that
Yeah.
perceptions are starting to shift when they start
Everybody
to try
knows what
those
6
kinds of
degrees
things.
of freedom means with like not just like this is 3 and then
I mean, we
This
do.
is
I mean, sorry,
6.
but we
Yeah.
do.
Well,
But
the people in the
for
stream may not know. Like if
casuals,
somebody's
probably
watching the
not.
stream.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say I probably work in an industry where it is 100% casual.
Yeah.
You know, just it's a no.
But
I
yeah,
mean, it's not
when
even
Syke
re-
says 6
yeah.
off, he means
exactly.
6 degrees of freedom, which it tracks
And,
everything,
yeah.
including all movements that your body makes.
Well, I mean, I
which
would
does
say
not
it's been a
happen.
good year
Yeah.
for VR because, well, I mean, say what you want about Facebook, but they know how to target. This is how this is the only way VR is going to get more popular. It's basically you
Right.
target.
You need an evil empire to kind of
Yeah.
get behind it and push it.
I mean, I don't like it. I don't like Facebook,
No,
but
yeah.
but it works though because what's it like the Quest has just been a big hit,
Mhm.
compared to like any other launches, and that's good. That's good for us because I mean, the more investment that goes into VR, well, the better for us, really. I mean,
Yeah,
that might be selfish,
totally.
but
and they're selling it at a loss. I mean, if you think about
Yeah.
an iPhone is $1,000, and then this that has basically a full phone, 4 cameras, 2 hand controllers, all the software on it is 400 is crazy.
Yeah, they're definitely that was the same strategy. Was it I think game consoles have always done that all the way back to, was it even the NES was like sold at a loss because they made their money back in software?
was it PS3
Like with game
was
consoles?
definitely sold at a loss because
Yeah, I know the PS3 was, but I think even earlier
developers
consoles were
wanted
too.
to develop for it or something because it was really
Yeah.
difficult. But then
Like I want to say even the Sega Genesis
like
was sold at a loss because they made it back on carts. So
Freeman, did you have another point as well before? Or was that?
Oh no, that was it for now. Yeah. No,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
standing it. It doesn't mean I'm. Oh,
No, it's okay.
blocking anyone.
That's okay.
Stand somewhere else. No, just didn't read that.
No. Well, yeah, we're in the line of the the speaker in the
Eve, there you
boxes
go.
in the circle.
Okay.
Yeah, Eve, did you have a?
Yes. Am I in the circle?
No,
Okay.
you're in the circle. Yeah.
You are now.
Okay. So I think it's interesting to look at that movie and think of it in terms of the motivations of the people who went in and out of VR and why they were doing it. And I think there are a lot of similarities to what we have now, because I think that one of the motivations for people to be in VR, I mean, one, it's the social, they're all the positive things, but I also think it's seeking companionship and it's seeking escape, and all the things that they depicted in that movie are actually going on now in terms of, some of the reasons why people choose VR. And in some cases, it's a better reality. It certainly was in the movie for them, a better reality and a richer reality. I don't think that's the case now, but I think given certain people and the way that they live and let's say their limitations, maybe VR does represent a better world and a richer world for them. So I think I kind of thought about that as I was watching the trailer.
Yeah, VR it can be. I mean, that's what we've seen in VR chat is that, people have really awesome experiences in here. But also, I think it's that, and you also can have experiences that you can't have in the real world. Like you can have experiences where you're talking to people and you feel like, like you're actually with them or near them and things like that when you're not in real life, or meet new people, all that kind of stuff. So it's like both. I think and that's what I feel like a lot of people wonder. Oh, you're just escaping reality by going into VR, but they don't realize what social VR is and what it actually means to be in here connecting with other people.
Well, the other
So it's
thing
interesting.
is,
It's
that's
both.
right. You're kind of expanding your world when you go into VR because you can be in different places. You can have, contact with different people. And I think that in the movie, it certainly depicts that. That's something that the protagonist wanted. Were these connections and these opportunities that he couldn't get in, what was it, Columbus, Ohio, wherever he was living. So, which may be true
Shout
for
out to
anyone who lives in
Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. But
The trailer
Famous,
park's
I don't
coming,
know.
folks.
yeah. Anyway, that's my comment. I'll move out of the way.
Interesting.
No, I mean, to be
Yeah,
honest,
Freeman.
I'm gonna combine that with Eve's point because the great thing we see from Ready Player One is the fact that you can go into this utopia, but think about it. I mean, why would anyone want to go into this utopia if the real world was that good? Why would you want to go into that? It's almost like a mask for real world problems.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the way the movie
Yeah.
represents it. Especially at the end where
Yeah.
they change the ending to be like, now we're closing the Oasis on this day, so you got to go.
Yeah,
like,
what the hell was
dude,
that?
Which is, I know.
It's like that's
Like,
so
yeah,
hypocritical.
I hope you weren't a
And-
podcaster or a VR podcaster who was dependent on income, because now you're losing 2 days of income a week. So
Yeah, 100%.
you're welcome.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
fact that the only way to be successful is basically sell stuff within the world. I mean,
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted
fundamentally.
to talk about a little later. We'll bring that up about the
But
virtual
yeah, I mean
economy.
that's basically the whole point I want to bring up. It's like, really, is it that good? No, I don't think it is. But that's it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
do you
totally.
want to move on to the next
Yeah, sure.
next topic? So I think can we talk a bit about the
forgot about
economy?
treadmills.
Oh, well, do you want to talk about the treadmills? Because I have an opinion, but
Yeah. I mean, the one
I don't
thing
know if
that
that's okay. Well, tell us about
that's really
treadmills.
been. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, go.
It's rather difficult to talk when that hears me. So
Oh, you're hearing an echo.
yeah, really delayed. But yeah, the one thing I did want to mention is the omnidirectional treadmills, and how we've been improving that technology so far. So certain things like this, where you've got the PlayStation Move Dome, or the actual omnidirectional treadmill
Infinitec. Yeah.
people have been building. Yeah, the Infinitec. That has been building in progress. You've got the gloves, you've got the suits, you've got smell, progressive lighting, wind machines. We're slowly building up to what Wade Watson is experiencing in VR. And that's just kind of the point I wanted to make. And even to the point of one day we can be working in VR as these guys are.
Yes.
So my thought on the treadmill is kind of, I used to think it would be like kind of the end game of like VR. Eventually we'd all have them, but I think more like, how many people, does everybody in here, do you all use just sliding movement now in VR? Is there anybody who still uses HoloPort?
God,
I'd be curious. Like I used HoloPort when I
Yeah,
first
it's so
started VR
confusing.
chat. And then after a while, I kind of adjusted. Like it was just, an adjustment process like anything else. And of course, now I can play pretty much any VR game without nausea. And unfortunately, there are some people who can't get over it at all. But that was true of like maybe FPS games back when they first came out on the PC. Like people would try to play Doom and get nauseous. But
Yeah.
people adjusted. So I was having a conversation recently. I went up to visit Canada and I saw some of my friends from my game dev days who are both, super into games and really interested in VR, and they have a, smaller apartment though, and they wouldn't have room for a treadmill A lot of people wouldn't. So I would actually not be surprised if, even though people have talked about, I move my joystick and I slide about, like we've all kind of thought, oh, that's a temporary solution. We're going to get something better. We're going to get omnidirectional treadmills or this, or walking or something. But I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes kind of the norm. Is for most people, it's just joysticks. And people just adjust. Rich, like wealthy people will still have, or wealthier people with proper space will still buy one, but it'll be a luxury. It won't be like the default. That's
Yeah,
how I see it.
100% agree. Yeah.
I think there's something called EMG where you're able to track the like electric signals through muscles, and that's what Facebook. I don't know. Facebook has some strange things they're putting on your wrist to try to read your brain, which is a little bit different.
Right. Everybody's cool with Facebook reading your thoughts, right? Totally. I'm sure they would not have used that in any way.
About that.
Like on Facebook.
Oh my god. But yeah, I think the omnidirectional treadmill idea might end up being manifested through something else. Like, for example, if you just move your legs back and forth a little bit, like up and down, or even just a tiny bit, you could have a sensor potentially that's walking. So I think we might get
tiring though. Like that's the thing. Like
there might be alternatives, but I think walking around. I think the question is like how much you want it to be like reality versus not.
Yeah.
And like you could be on a hoverboard or something, or just walk around like this. But I think there will be options and technologies that are worked on. Actually, if you go back, can you go back to the Infinideck real fast on the slide? Because I actually
real quick, I want to make one point though on that because I want to, and Freeman, because I want to acknowledge it. I'm going to talk about Skyrim now because I always talk about Skyrim. But just as an example of Skyrim has something you can set up where you actually can use natural movement. You can put trackers on your feet and it'll track it so that you can actually run with your feet and move around all in the world. And I actually got it set up and working, and I was out of breath in like 5 minutes. Like you have to do a lot.
A lot of people overestimate how fit they are. And,
exactly.
Say,
and so
I want full movement. Like, no, mate, you really don't.
Yeah. So I set it up, and 5 minutes later, I'm like, nope, I'm going back to joysticks. So I wanted to make that point that I think a lot of people are going to be lazy, and like I'd much rather just stand.
That's
here.
True. Yeah, anyway, just use a joystick. No, that's true. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like you saw people at a cafe sitting down and playing, the Oasis. You saw people in office, sitting down and playing in Oasis.
You remember the guy who jumps out a window when he dies?
Yeah, almost.
In the game?
Almost.
Oh yeah, that's right. They stop him. Yeah.
Yeah, they stop him. We can't have that.
I shouldn't laugh at that, but
it's true.
Even the big boss evil, Sorrento.
Yeah, he had his pod.
He has
his immersion
big
pod.
old chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's sitting.
Yeah,
that's true. But I think so. The reason that I want to go back to this is this Infinideck. I met the guys who at SVVR Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference. The reason I actually got into the VR conference thing or whatever was because these guys came to National Institutes on Health and they were using it for rehab for knees and other kinds of things like that. And so I think some of the health research just is getting back to like the fact that people might not want to be physical and stuff, but there are advantages potentially, not necessarily for like an Oasis, but for some situations to make it as realistic as possible. But maybe for other situations, it'll be like, what's the most convenient, kind of easiest thing for people to do as well.
Yeah. I mean,
here's another question, another poll real quick for people. Has anybody gotten to try the Void? Do you know what that is?
I haven't. I really want to try it, but...
Okay, we got a thumbs up over there. Cool. What do you think, Meow? What do you think of the Void?
I think it's pretty awesome. I think it's the closest thing to this that we have yet. I think it has.
Can you
some
describe it for people who don't know what it is?
Yeah. So what the Void is, it's a VR attraction, so to speak, where you go in and you're able to go in with a party of maybe 3 or 4, and they put backpacks on you. They put a untethered, but it's tethered to the backpack VR headset on you, and you go throughout like a half-hour show or half-hour kind of game scenario, and there's different themes to it. So there's a Star Wars one. They just came out with a Marvel one, where you get to be Iron Man and shooting robots and stuff. So it's pretty fun. It's very immersive. I'll say that, because when you're in that, like, let's take the Star Wars one. There's one section in the beginning when you're on a lift going across some lava, and they actually had heat lamps around you. And so that gave you the sensation of heat on your body. And I just caught myself like thinking, just naturally thinking that I shouldn't step over there because I'll freaking die, right? So
Yeah.
um, it kind of breaks down all the things that uh, like here. There's a bit of a separation. I know I'm sitting in my room. I know I'm here, but I'm interacting with you guys in the void. It's quite an experience.
You're more immersed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By far the wildest thing for me, because I had done a lot of VR before the Void, but I did the Star Wars one as well that you're talking about. And in addition to walking around the full warehouse, because they have the warehouse kitted out so that you can physically walk everywhere long distances, you start out as stormtroopers, but you aren't armed because you're basically rebels in disguise. And about 10 minutes through, you walk into a room and in VR you see a bunch of blasters on the wall, like rifles on the wall, but then you go over and you actually physically pick them up. And now you have this physical blaster in your hands. And it was so cool to feel like this physical object that was mapped one-to-one to my VR. And then you have a trigger and everything and you're shooting it. It was really cool.
I mean, the crazy thing is, like, we were dreamed of having this stuff about, like, 10 years ago. Like, you've been like, a fantasy. And the fact that it exists now is, like, kind of crazy.
Yeah. But I think something like the Void offers a lot of the extra stuff. Like you don't even need a treadmill. You set a warehouse size space aside. You have, clever spacing and level design to does everybody know what redirected walking is? Has anybody not heard that term? Well, just for anybody, I know a lot of people are. For anybody who hasn't, there's a term for redirected walking where you can put someone in a VR environment, like a large warehouse scale or space, and let them walk through like a city. And by subtly shifting the environment, you make them kind of walk in a circle, but they aren't aware that they're doing it. So if you do it right, you can essentially have someone feel like they're walking forever in a reasonably sized space, but in fact they're eventually going in a circle, and they just aren't aware of it because of the way.
They use that.
The Void does a lot of back and forth. Like you'll stand in an elevator and like, oh, let's walk over here, and then okay, we're in an elevator. Oh, now we're walking back this way, and you don't track it. Yeah, you don't track it when you're doing it, but it feels much larger.
Yeah, and they have smaller setups too. Like at an Oculus Oculus Connect, they had a smaller setup like that. That was pretty confined, but you still felt like you were, on a bridge over lava with a heat lamp or heat and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty, not like running around. I mean, I think to be able to truly run in a big area would be really cool. But also, this is another example of something where the Quest is now unlocking the potential to do these things at much lower costs. Like now you can do
football field scale VR.
Yeah, you can have a Void. You can do the Void basically in a gym, and you can set up obstacles, and it's like you might only need 3 fans that you place strategically in areas, and you have that same effect.
So there's a way with the Quest that you can. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say something, Freeman?
No, I'm just saying. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, this technology. Everybody was so skeptical of the Quest when it first came out. Oh, look, how can we track, just stuff using just this,
Just the cameras,
the thing is, like, the fact that it's worked so well, it's basically spits in the face of, like, all the critics, because this opens up so many, like, stuff you can do. Think about it. Like, the camera can track stuff. Think about, like you said, in a huge warehouse, you can have like certain things, like almost like a scenario indicator that you have on the wall. Like as soon as the camera tracks that, it will be like, okay, let's shift towards this. Like this is where things are. It's like AI and all that. It's kind of the potential is right now, I would say, super exciting. So
yeah, people have used. There's a dev mode. You can actually right now you can get an Oculus developer account just by signing up. And if you have a Quest, you basically can enter dev mode. You can enable dev mode on your machine and essentially disable Chaperone. Chaperone is the system that defines the area in which you can walk. And you turn that off entirely. Yeah, Guardian, that's right. It's Guardian for Quest. So what people have done, and you can look up videos of YouTube, somebody will go out. You have to do it on like an overcast day. You can't do it in bright sunlight. But like with an overcast day with a nice even light, they'll go out in the middle of a soccer field or a football field and put on the Quest and just walk around, the entire length wearing the Quest outside, playing through. I think there's a video where a guy plays through a whole level of Apex Construct, and he's just walking the entire time. There's no unnatural motion at all. He's just out in the middle of a soccer field. So
and there's procedurally generated apps now where like the content is made as you experience it, and it's always random, and there's like a really cool Quest app as well that you can sideload to try that, and it's pretty powerful in that scenario as well, I think.
Yep. So yeah, there's all
it's
sorts
pretty, it's
of,
pretty cool.
there's the one scene in Ready Player One. I think there's a lot of them that make me laugh, but the one is, I think at the end scene, they show, they have all the avatars come over the hill, and then they cut to the real world. And like, I think there's this one scene where there's like, 100 people like on the sidewalk, literally right next to a busy street. And they're like kung fu fighting and doing all this other stuff, and running around. And you're like, oh my God, somebody's going to jump out in front of a car. Like,
I know,
don't
yeah.
play in the street with your quest.
Yes. Yeah. So it's interesting. The Quest is pretty, it does seem like a kind of second generation of VR in some ways. And so I guess that gets us to our second category of social and adoption rates. And thinking about like, especially with investors, actually, I think this is a big thing. This is why Facebook just had its call with investors and reporting, and Mark Zuckerberg said, right after he got back from testifying, I think, but he said that the about all the other stuff, but he talked about how, but he talked about how the adoption rate was not as fast as they hoped. And that's an important thing. Like, it's a very scary thing because he is again, and it's like we need people like people like Mark Zuckerberg and companies like Facebook to be doing this kind of stuff, because they're putting a lot of their extra capital into promoting VR because they think it's going to be the future. And it's scary because if investors don't see a return on investment, basically, they could pull the plug or like try to get them to do that. So adoption rates are really important. And did you have a slide? You had a slide on that, Ghoster. One of the slides of the so you have like kind of how many people are actually, I think so, this is kind of getting at adoption rates, but I mean all-time peak of concurrent users, is that on the right?
Yeah, all the way on the right.
Yeah, so we see like Beat Saber with 42,000, or like an Oasis like World, the VR chat, with only 28,000. I mean, that's nothing compared to what investors are looking for
it's nothing.
Yeah, like
pathetic numbers compared to like say the PS4.
Or even like or even a social network or a website or anything like that. So
anything.
It's just interesting. We're far away still.
We are extreme people. I think people are way too ambitious in terms of like what they think. Like, VR is the future. Well, yeah, I mean, we love to think it is. But in terms of, will it really change stuff? Yeah, it will. But in terms of like, will it change that quickly? No, I don't think it will. But
well, my hope is that VR develops kind of the same way that if anybody goes back and looks at the internet, how the internet came about from, over the past, I think just 30 years probably. I think the big thing that the reason the internet succeeded is because at least when it started out, it was not a for-profit. It was almost like it was universities trying to talk to each other, but it was treated more like a public utility. Like it wasn't necessarily pitched that way, but it was not like they didn't cancel the internet, the ARPANET, I guess, in the first year because it didn't make money. They continued to develop it. So hopefully, if VR does succeed, it will be treated in a way where it's not a moneymaker. There's investment to kind of make this as just a public. Whether that'll happen, who knows? But that would be the ideal.
Laozi, I love you, but
yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah, I could have felt the same way.
No chance, man. I mean, the only reason
but
the
also,
internet even big. Go on.
Well, none of us are going to give up our headsets. That's the key thing, I think. Like anyone who's already into VR is like into VR pretty much, I think. Right. So that's a positive that we're pretty cemented.
Yeah, I do think that Quest, I think the success of the Quest combined with Facebook Spaces, like I have a feeling like Facebook Spaces is going to be very, very user-friendly, like very as close to, as close to like a casual.
Well, Facebook Spaces is gone now.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
it's not Spaces.
It's Horizons.
Yeah, I misspoke. Yeah, Spaces is gone. Yeah, Horizons is the new one. So Horizons is going to be, hopefully, you have a large Quest user base. You have Horizons. They tell their friends, and then they kind of, it goes from there. It kind of steamrolls. Like people who have a Quest try Spaces, love it. Say, hey, to their friend, you got to get a Quest and get Spaces and come hang out with me. And adoption spreads that way. That could happen. I know Facebook wants that to happen. I want that to happen.
Believe me, we all want it to happen. But I think we've still got a couple of more years before
Yeah, I
even
agree.
VR
I agree. It's
even
gonna be
gets,
it's
like,
gonna be a couple of years.
the thing is, like, from the place I work for a charity, and I work for the predominantly people I know are older than myself. No idea about tech. I'm the IT expert, and I'm like, oh my goodness, man. I mean, like, they struggle to open Outlook. That's kind of
Yeah.
like the demographic I work with, and the thing is, predominantly that's kind of demographic most people will have to work with. Well, for at least a couple of more years.
Yeah.
You say to them, "Oh, okay, Windows 7's getting fixed." Like, they don't care. Who cares? What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
Did you have a thought? Do you want to?
all of believe me,
Yep.
I love, sometimes we do like to be over ambitious in terms of how quick we want tech to advance. In terms
Yeah.
of real life, how really, I've tried to upgrade us for years now, but still, everything just takes super long. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to spend the budget even to begin to do that.
So I
Yeah.
want to get a
But then,
thought from Meow though, because he's been standing there a little while. So let's get.
Okay,
get
yeah,
everyone else
sorry,
to-
yeah,
Yeah,
too much
That's a
moaning
good
from me.
point. No,
Yeah,
but it's a
um,
good point about it
We'll
is
come
a good
back.
point
Yeah.
about adoption
Psych.
and the challenges
Yeah.
there.
Psych.
So
I
Here's,
moan a
here's,
lot.
here's my thought on it too is, adoption rates may not be as fast as they were hoping, but I think we're just starting to step into how mass adoption could happen, right? With the Quest. Honestly, that's going to be the portal, like you guys said, to the next generation of VR, because
Yeah.
before this, it was very niche, right? It was like people
Yeah,
that had
no one had.
powerful computers, people that had a lot of
Yeah.
money to spare on the actual hardware. I mean, what was the Vive when it first came out? Like $800 or
800
something?
plus
Out-
the
outrageous
1600
money.
computer.
Plus your PC. Your
Outrageous money.
PC was
Right.
about 1,500 for a good VR machine. 800 for the
Right.
Vive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nothing
Right,
was
so-
optimized, but back then, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I think we're just.
wants one.
What?
What did you say, Dragon? Your mom wants one.
My 40-year-old mom wants one. I got her.
Ah.
Yeah, Quest. Absolutely.
Tell
Get
her
her.
to
When
come
my
on.
mom
Yeah,
got
get a
one,
Quest, bro.
she built
Bring
a
her
computer.
here. We would love to meet your mom. Get
Yeah.
her in here.
Well, in
That's
the old
right,
days, you
I
had to
would-
build a
Moms are
PC
welcome.
and get her VR, but now you can just get a Quest.
We built
Yes.
a
And what-
PC. We
Yeah,
built a
this
her
is my
VR.
mom in
And
real
what-
life.
Yeah.
No, but Eve's
Oh,
different.
is it
Eve's
really?
like
Oh,
she's
hi,
seen
Mrs. Syke.
hasn't
Yeah.
yeah.
It's wonderful to meet
I've
you.
seen the
You have a
beginning.
lovely son.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
Sorry,
they built
go
a
ahead,
PC.
Meowful.
They built a
Well-
PC right before that happened, right before the Quest came out.
That's right.
what
I had certain
Dragon
people
said
is
such a
encouraging me to
huge-
do it.
That's massive because I mean that proves what we were just talking about in terms of
Yeah.
that's the step that we were all hoping for.
Oh, right. Yeah,
For
your
years and
mom,
years and
Dragon,
years.
saying, "Give me VR." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we were waiting for your
My
mom
mom is a step.
to do that.
Yep.
That's why the
I would
holiday.
make sure she gets it.
That's a great point,
That's
Meow.
right.
And I think that's why the holiday season is going to be really important. I think it's going to be huge for the Quest.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I mean,
There's
you
gonna be a
said
great
yourself
Black
there,
Friday
so
deal,
holiday
and there's gonna be
season,
great
what you gonna
Christmas
buy
deals, I would bet.
Yeah, but what'd you say,
PC?
Raven?
I'm just saying, like, you pretty much land yourself in it. Like, I mean, holiday season coming up. What are you gonna buy, Eve, man?
That's true.
That's
Yeah,
it.
she already has built a PC and everything. That's true. Yeah. Well, and now with Oculus Link, you're going to be able to just plug your Quest in and
Plug your
use
Quest
it
into your PC if you want more power.
like a
yeah.
like a
It's
Rift.
great.
Yeah.
There
So,
you go.
Catapult.
Hi, like what was just brought up. I'm 60 years old, and I've been in VR for 2.5 years. I'm still blown away by it, but at first it was like, whoa, this is nuts. Not just VR chat and social stuff, but just VR experience as a whole. Like playing like Fantasy Synth, which is a freebie. It's a music type video experience, and it's just mind blowing. But regarding the Oasis thing, the one thing I would be my biggest problem with it is the comfort of the headsets. They're still
Mhm.
heavy, they're still bulky. Like you look at weight, I mean, he looks like he's wearing some ski goggles that probably weigh as much as ski goggles, which is nothing.
Yeah.
It's actually looked similar to the one Google had that they just recently retired, but it was like, I can't remember, is the Google something, but it was almost like just a little cloth headband and you would put it on. It was super light. I think it was like an advanced cardboard almost.
No, Daydream, yeah. That's what,
The Daydream, that's the one I'm thinking of, yes. That actually looked really comfortable.
Impractical, yes, I agree, Catapult. I mean,
But like
who wanna wear
Freeman
that
was
shit in
saying,
your face? Yeah.
you know, the other problem is the expense. It's not, you know, I was thinking about, you know, why isn't people, companies renting headsets out? But then I can understand why, because the bloody things are so expensive and they're so fragile. Like just the lenses alone, they're a fairly
Yeah.
soft plastic and they can get scratched pretty easy when you don't know what you're doing. So somebody that has eyeglasses on will put it too close, scratch the crap out of his glasses and the lenses in the headset. You know, but the
Mine are
thing is, like
scratched.
for people like myself that are retired and whatnot, that never even thought of trying VR, you know, if they would, this is like an escape. Like I'm lucky I've got a good wife and we get along great, so we're good company to each other. But somebody that's alone, that's a widower,
Yeah.
or so on and so forth, this would be amazing for somebody like that.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
thing is
yeah.
to learn how to use it. Thus, the Quest would probably be pretty good. I don't know. I've never tried
Yeah,
one.
that
but
is the
something
Quest.
like
Yeah, that's
that.
the take it out of the box and put it on, and you're in VR.
Yeah,
like it's
so
almost
so
that
that
simple.
would be pretty good. That's, you know, because most older people might not be into fancy computer hardware as to get a PC VR up and running. But the Quest, like Laozi said, just slap it on, turn it on, register it, and away you go.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Catapult, you've just basically opened up like so many thoughts. Because
Well, Eve, did you have something that you wanted?
I'm gonna go
You had
sit
started.
down over there.
Okay.
No,
I
I love
did.
you, Catapult.
Do you
And
want-
Yeah, what was your thought, Eve?
What I was going to say is that, so in my generation, unless you're, I mean, we're kind of nerdly and we like technology, but that's very unusual for someone who's, you know, at our stage of life, retired and looking for, you know, we feel like it's sort of an addition to an extension of what we do recreationally. But that's not, and I'm fascinated with the technology, and that's what's pulling me in to obviously having sight is the major reason. I don't think I would have been in VR. But what I'm saying is that for our generation to really get into VR, it has to come from the app, from the application, and from, let's say, an institutional kind of setting where people are exposed to it because they're in places where VR already exists and they get exposure and they like certain applications. And that's what's going to draw them into it. They're not de novo just going to go out and buy a headset, I don't think. Not our age group. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the Facebook Spaces or the I keep on Spaces. That's where Horizons might help.
Definitely.
If it gets more Dragons moms into it, because you know they hear about it on Facebook from their Facebook friends, and then they start to transfer our Facebook customers who are older into this VR environment.
Well, also I could see it. Yeah, Freeman. Then
no, I'm just saying, like, you know, you say Facebook. I mean, you know, I work for a hospice, and you know, half the time, you know, they're not on Facebook. They don't even do that. None of it. You know, they just prefer old school, just post.
Yeah, I think
might seem outdated, but you know, as a charity, they are so important because you know you cannot, you know, neglect people who prefer that form of communication because they with GDPR now in the EU, you cannot take that shit for granted because you make a mistake there and you start sending people stuff because okay, that's a whole nother rant.
Yeah, I mean, I think
So-
the healthcare, like, I think healthcare could be one area where it does pick up, because if there are proven
Definitely.
health benefits,
Yeah.
if there are proven health benefits for longevity, for maintaining cognitive ability, for even if someone does have, like, there is a lot of research now with dementia, for example, in VR, and bringing people back to places they used to like and things like that. Caregivers, training caregivers on how to do things. If there becomes some functional utility of VR for the boomer population, the baby boomer or like older population, all of a sudden you have the opportunity, I think, to induce mass adoption, because a $400 piece of equipment in the healthcare context compared to a $2,000 hospital bed, or even a toilet seat adapter that's like $800 or whatever. I mean, all of a sudden people are willing to spend a lot more money for technologies and things like that. So I think the healthcare setting could be one in which we see could promote mass adoption. In addition to those of us who just pressure our mothers to get VR, but
Yes,
not
there are
all of us.
those
Dragon, I
people
wish you
too.
the best of luck though on that. I can give you advice if you want. I did pull at the heartstrings to make it happen.
You
so I will say.
you did. You were very
but-
effective.
So it looks like
Yes.
Catapult had a thought. Can we talk about marketplace a bit after that? Because that is something I want to touch on.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but Catapult, you look like you had something you wanted to.
Oh yeah, talking about like trying to get people in the VR. The one thing I always say is, do not go by the YouTube videos of people using VR and then they show you on the monitor what they're seeing, because you don't know what VR is until you've tried VR.
Yes.
And
yeah.
perfect example is this one guy I used to work with. I was talking to him on Facebook when they had that summer Rift sale a couple of years ago, where the Rift seriously came down in price with the touch controllers. And I told him, because he's a sim racer, I said, you love sim racing in VR. And I said, don't go by the videos you see on YouTube, even though you can research it that way. I said, until you experience VR, you don't know what VR is. It's that unreal. It's that it'll really mess you up at first, because your mind is, trying to wonder why your body is not feeling G-forces. It's not feeling this and whatnot. And it really messes you up until you get used to it. And it'll take you a couple of weeks of using it fairly regular to get used to it. But the thing is, there's a lot of people, and I would imagine, Eve, you'd agree with that they go by what they see on YouTube. And okay, yeah, so what's the big deal? Until you try it, you don't know what it is. But that's what they got to be. That's what you got to push to people. Until you try, you don't know what it is. This will give you a rough idea, but you don't know what it is unless you try it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing there is, like, I mean, we're seeing VR experiences pop up in bars. In addition to the Void, there's, other experience where it's more of like a booth you go in, and like, so it is more like somebody who's never tried it is in a bar, whatever, I've got $30 to blow,
With the
I'll try this silly zombie thing.
Bar, bro. I mean, imagine with that nasty sweat, someone's probably thrown up in their head.
But if you're experiencing it for the first time, it could be pretty cool. Yeah. So, so the other topic I wanted to touch on kind of briefly is actually to mention kind of like the avatar I'm wearing. So, one of the things that I found cool and plausible in Ready Player One is Wade's friend H. They show this briefly in the movie, and they talk more about it in the book. But H is basically a modeler, designer, scripter. His full-time job, or her full-time job, for spoilers, is basically making contracts for people. In the movie, she's working on the Iron Giant. I think in the book, I can't remember in the book. It's something that was not, that they couldn't get because of the rights. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, I went to a marketplace recently. VR Chat has had a couple of marketplace events where they partnered with, I think, some Japanese companies and have these massive worlds where people are selling all sorts of avatars. I mean, avatars are the primary seller, but there's other little things. And I saw this stuff. I liked it so much. And I was like, well, I've hacked together this, this older avatar that I've used for a while, but I'd really like to have a nicely designed one that I can customize where I can just pick it. And so I found somebody on a site that Ghoster's somewhat familiar with, VRC Traders. And and I talked to him, and he's like, sure, yeah, we can do this. And he made this model from scratch for me and hooked everything up right. So all the fingers work, the eye tracking like all of the things that I could figure out if I had, 40 hours of time every week, which I do not. But I basically said, all right, I'm going to spend some money like I would spend to buy something else nice, and I'm going to buy myself an avatar. So the thing that I'm curious about is take it 20 years in the future, 10, 20 years in the future. Say Horizons does take off. Say VR chat continues to improve. Say we do get mass adoption. Could there be people who are one day doing what H does, where they're basically full-time job, making enough money building, everyone wants a custom model or a custom car, or a custom scripted thing,
Well, I can say right now, people are already doing that.
Mm-hmm. It's already happening.
Making a money, living off of VR chat money.
So you think people are living off?
Avatars.
They're making enough.
In and day out.
No, I can guarantee you
they get enough
that
work
I know
that
people
they're-
who are living
yeah.
off the VR chat money. Yeah.
And it's not like 5 people or 10 people. It's like at least 20 or 30.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's not even people I've seen.
Yeah.
Like I know.
And the
there's
last
people out
time
there-
the last time you saw this was probably Second Life. Like for anyone who's
thinking about
familiar with
Second
that.
Life.
Yes, I
Yeah,
was
for a
thinking
while
about
there
that.
was
Yep.
real estate, like people who got really, because they sold real estate. That was kind of Second Life shtick. Is you could, you would have the Lindens and you'd sell a product or land, but there were people who managed to buy private islands and sell them and actually make money for a time that was comparable to a full-time job. So, but it's interesting, Ghoster, that you confirmed that. Yeah, people are now making enough. So, assuming the user base is there and the user base has a demand for, I don't want to use basic avatar. I don't know how to make it myself. I have enough and it's affordable enough that I can buy myself something custom. I could see that being huge. So
absolutely, and especially with improving technology, you can automate most of that process. Sorry. So let's say you could pump up that avatar in 2 hours, fully rigged, modeled, and textured. 2 hours easy. So that's 2 hours times however much you paid. We're going to call it $400+ or something like that, whatever it was. So $400.
You're saying once you're good, once you know what you're doing, you can do work pretty quickly. Yeah.
You could bust out easily $2,000 or $3,000 a week in avatars.
I mean, I don't like to call people out, but I mean, look at what Pika Pete is doing. I mean, he's doing well for himself, and I'm so glad he is, because with the amount of bullshit. Well, I don't like to swear, but
Pika Pete's the guy who he does the dog, the furry avatars, and he's done a whole bunch of Or I'm sorry, they aren't furries. There's something else.
And they've tried. I mean, VR chat has been trying to like limit stuff and all that, but I think he beasted through it, because like he's got such a fan base. They love his avatars and they'll pay for them. Simple as that. And the difference
that's
is
super
Patreon.
cool. Like to me, that's cyberpunk.
That's what's happened now. Patreon people are moving away from traditional ad-based, kind of like, watch my ads, and they're like, you know what? Don't watch my ads and just go on my Patreon. Even the Patreon takes a huge cut. And I would expect within the next 1 or 2 years, there'll be a better company who comes along who takes a less cut. Because Patreon takes like something like 20%. Like, that's ridiculous, mate. So I don't support anyone on Patreon, because I don't like Patreon. They take too much of a cut. Make it 10%,
it's a
maybe.
Support site. Think of it kind of like a Kickstarter.
What does Patreon do? What does Patreon do? They just host.
Nothing. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, they handle the money transfers too.
20%.
Yeah. They provide like financial services and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the overall point is that VR chat is the marketplace.
Argument, I think. Yeah, but
but what you're saying about Pika Pete and stuff is like VR chat is a place where these services can occur.
The only way
but you always need that middleman.
Because
like when I paid for this avatar, like when I worked with the guy who did it, I paid him through PayPal. Like it wasn't like I paid him directly. We had this intermediary service that, because that way he knows I'm not stiffing him. It's not like, oh yeah, the check's in the mail and it never arrives. Like there's this verifiable neutral party that we can both trust.
You need an intermediary.
Yeah.
Most likely. Yeah.
So I just want to, I know we're getting towards an hour here. So I want to know, like, do you guys have any other thoughts about like where where you think things are going or how you think we'll get to that point. Because, and one thing I want to just add in before that too is that I think, and I know I talk about this a lot, but I think climate change is going to be a big driver of VR adoption. And just like in the movie,
Right.
when
The
they
more
say,
the world sucks, the more people will want to be in VR.
yeah, I mean,
as
when
was
it's
Ready Player
100,
One, as was the plot.
when it's
Yeah.
105 degrees outside, or if it's below negative whatever degrees, then yeah, I think that if people are less likely to go outside, or if it's storming or whatever, if it's just less enjoyable weather sometimes, then I think people will, or when the sea level rises and giant cities like New York are. People are moving to different places and they don't have as much stuff with them. I mean, we could quickly see,
Bye, Florida.
I think VR becoming a place like that.
Bye,
So,
Florida. Bye, California.
yeah.
I think California is a little higher. I would say my final thought is something that I would be curious for the opinions of everyone here too. But all the cyberpunk I read leading up to leading up to like my first experience in VR, Ready Player One is like this. All of it basically has whether it's the Oasis or whatever VR thing it is. In the book, it is like taken over. Like it's basically everyone would prefer to be in VR rather than in real life, and it's kind of like that is everyone's goal. I want to be in VR as much as possible for as long as possible with as much fidelity as possible. And when I first started out in VR, I kind of thought, oh yeah, that's totally cool. Once it gets really good, I'll want to be in it all the time. But I mean, personally, I have like a 5-year-old. I have a job. I have friends in both real life and VR. And as I have matured, I guess, in my VR experience, like I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years now, VR is not, it's not like a life takeover thing. It's like an option. Like if I have free time on a night, I can get in my car and drive to see some friends, or I can go to a movie, or I can play a flat screen game, or I can get in VR and do something like this. And it's great. I love doing it. Yeah, well, yeah, like Ghoster, who's doing all that right
If
now.
you have enough
He's in
time
the
to do
car.
all
He's
those
actually
free
recording in
things,
the car.
most
We
you
can't see
don't.
that. He's driving
I'm
around.
using my mobile
But
data.
yeah, but
pass-through.
I think the thing I wanted to say is that I actually don't think it'll be VR takes over the world. I think VR will become a part of everyone's life that people do regularly, but real life will still be present. So, and you can agree or disagree, but that's kind of where how I feel about it now.
agree with you, Laozi. Because, like, I mean, for a normal person, VR they've got more shit to worry about than to worry about getting on VR, mate. Like, I mean, no offense, but
Dragon has a thought.
Yeah, he's been waiting.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it, Dragon?
Just
You
real
just
quick.
you look enthused.
RTX on or off?
On always.
I want to discuss the graphics.
Okay.
If only
I
I had an RTX.
Wish we could, but I think we're almost out of time.
Yeah. Well, I would be curious. So do a thumbs up or thumbs down. Does anybody? So I guess if you agree that VR is going to kind of develop and just be like something everyone does in balance, or you disagree, like thumbs down if you think VR is going to take over and like it's going to be the dystopia where everyone's in VR all the time and real life is just is nothing.
If like
I
VR is
think
going
we've
to
still
become
got
what
at least
consoles
a
are today.
decade before that even becomes remotely possible.
Yeah, I'm curious if anybody does anybody want to make the counter argument that it will take over and it will be all VR all the time.
I think it will once we start
JT,
educating the next generation of kids in VR. They're going to be using VR for education, and then eventually it'll be the part of their work life and their social life. Eventually, it'll be every part of their life. So I think for our generation, it is true. It's a supplement to our entertainment. But for the generations to come down the line, and maybe the next generation, they're gonna live in VR. Their whole life is gonna starts with education, growing up, eventually into being social, and so VR is gonna be a big part of their life.
Yeah,
well, at least we'll get their heads out of their phones.
Not like their whole life.
I mean,
So.
I would love to agree with you, but
Okay, hold on, Freeman.
I don't think
Freeman.
we should
Hey,
sorry.
Hold on. Okay, Catapult and then Meow.
And then Meow.
I just said at least it'll get their heads out of their phones.
VR out of
yeah, then they'll be in VR. That's
VR
true.
is the next phones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, Meow.
I think there's a few things that would need to happen before it becomes like where everybody on the whole planet is on it all the time. And that would be for something like Oasis to actually happen, where Oasis was kind of like an internet in and of itself, right? It was a hub for connectivity that you could access life stuff, you could access games, You could do all sorts of stuff there. VR doesn't have anything like that yet, but if we had some sort of central hub where the games were accessed through and everybody was interacting like Oasis, then I think we'd start to see that. And the other thing I could see is the monetary system. So as soon as the monetary system in video games actually applies to real world where people can play video games professionally and they're bringing digital value, then applying it to buy a pizza, get a pizza delivered at their apartment. Then we'll see everybody jumping into it like Oasis. But until then, it will be an option, right?
Yeah, that's probably a good topic for another show. But we probably won't have time for it here. But I would be interested to think about kind of you talked about shooting stuff in VR to get pizza money. There's a scene in Ready Player One where Wade talks to H because he's not very wealthy, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to trail behind the race and grab people's coins or whatever when they blow up or something." Like that's kind of what he's been reduced to. But it's if you look at current modern day stuff, one of the hugest problems with YouTube and Facebook and all these other sites is moderation, because in many cases they need human moderators and the amount of content is so huge. So one of the most horrible jobs in the world is actually the people who have to view all the Facebook stuff that people have posted that's like horrific. Like people get like PTSD from viewing these horrible, murders, mutilations, all this stuff that they have to, a human person has to see it and verify this is unacceptable and we could remove it. So hopefully we won't have that in VR, but it would be interesting to see, like, let's say it does go big and all of a sudden IP violations aren't cool anymore. Like I doubt they'll ever crack down. Let's say they did. To figure out, like, to track that stuff, you need a massive human staff. So a VR job could be full time. I log in, I do 8 hours a day running around. Oh, there's a My Little Pony, zap. There's a Voltron, zap, and I start reporting, and like that could be a job. His full-time job is reporting IP violations.
Don't give them any ideas. But,
they have ideas already, I'm sure.
I know. Okay, well, Ghoster, did you have a final thought?
Yes. So what I want to make a joke of is the fact that here in Ohio, we actually have a meme about ourselves that there are so many Ohioans in gaming. So like console gaming, PC gaming, even in VR gaming, there's like 6 people in this game that I know that are like an hour from me. And the fact that Ready Player One takes place in Ohio to show the fact that, we're not doing much. We like to go into games more than interact with everyone else.
So what you're saying is Ohio sucks. Ghoster is saying Ohio sucks. So sorry,
No,
people from Ohio.
Okay, I did say that.
I don't agree with his opinion, but I mean, he put it out there.
What time did you live in Ohio?
I don't live in Ohio.
Well, before we dive down that rabbit hole, no, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I would say it's just going to replace consoles. I don't think it will be a complete takeover at all. Like there will definitely be people
it won't replace consoles, or it will.
No, it will be the replacement to console.
Oh, see, I disagree with that.
So,
but that's another show.
Yes.
But it's not going to be life taking over. It's not going to, control the universe. We're not going to go full Matrix.
Yet.
Yet.
I had
yes.
one more
Give it 50
thought.
years. Sure.
Okay. One last thought.
I had one more thought.
Let's get a closing thought from Sykes' mom.
Okay. So my thought is that every time someone is not interacting in the real world, it could be because they're on their phone, they're on the computer, they're doing something that takes them someplace else. And VR is like that too. I think it's a continuum is what I'm trying to say. That if someone is texting on their phone, you don't think about that as being removed from the reality in their environment, but that's exactly what it is. And the more we see this happening, there'll be a gradual evolution that takes place, I think, over time. And VR is along that continuum. So
Yeah.
there you have it.
All right.
All right, our final thought. And cool guys. Well, thank you Lau for coming on.
Yep.
And
Thanks for having me.
We got to get a group picture.
You're like
Smaller
moving
group
back and
tonight.
forth. Like I can't track you. You're like he's behind me the whole time. Where'd he go?
Yes.
He's running
Okay,
around
hold on.
again.
Okay, security
Calm
is
down.
off. So if you guys want to come up here, we can take a group picture.
Yeah.
I'll play the
I'll stand in the back with my giant, oversized avatar. I really need to scale this down.
to form a line this time. We only have 11 people in this room.
I know, right? It's pretty small. But yeah, we can come up. And Ghost, are you gonna get in the picture?
I think I will.
Whoop. Sorry.
I gotta stop the camera though.
You guys can come up more towards the front of the. Nice.
There's Nomono's friend playing the music.
Oh, that's his friend? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was his friend. That's where that song came from.
Oh, nice. All right, everyone. Blanking on something to say.
Oasis
Anything. Oasis.
on 3.
1, 2, 3.
Oasis.
Yay!
Yay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the input. Sorry we didn't get to talk more about graphics, too. Dragon, that would have been...
I know Dragon's crestfallen. Could have done the whole show about graphics. It's okay, man.
Yes. Yeah, I have to run because I actually bruised my rib playing hockey, so I'm a little bit of pain. I had to sit down halfway through the show. But
Well, your mistake was playing hockey.
Oh.
I know.
That's
Yeah.
I might actually keep it this size. Like, it is kind of nice to just be able to like